Hi everyone, happy almost St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish, but I do have Irish connections and I really love Irish stew. I've been making this recipe for about 25-ish years and I've modified it now to make it 100% paleo compliant, and the same with the dumplings. They're parsley dumplings and they're really yummy. So we're going to be making that today, ready for March 17th, and or anytime you want to make it, don't feel pressured. The other thing that I do want to tell you, fair warning, is that my tripod just broke. So I really want to get this out to you before St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to be sort of maybe doing a lot of this in weird angles, but that will be why. And let's get on with it. So here's all the ingredients you're going to need to make our Irish stew. You need 2 pounds of stewing lamb, basically lean lamb cubed. You need 1 onion, 8 ounces of carrots, 2 medium leeks. You'll need 1 large sweet potato and some coconut flour, salt, pepper, and then for the dumplings you're going to need unsweetened original almond milk, almond flour, salt and pepper again, an egg, dried parsley, dried thyme, and some baking powder. Let's get cracking. So the first thing we want to do is take 2 tablespoons of the coconut flour, put them in a bowl, and we're going to just put some seasoning in. We're going to put half a teaspoon of pink Himalayan sea salt, and we're going to put a quarter of a teaspoon of the black pepper, and then we're going to wash our lamb and roll it around and get it floured. Okay, so again, 2 tablespoons of your coconut flour with half a teaspoon pink Himalayan sea salt, quarter of a teaspoon of the black pepper. And we'll give that a mix. We'll wash our lamb and we'll get on with the next bit. So give the seasoned flour a mix so it's kind of nice and even. You've got salt and pepper all the way through the flour, and throw it into a freezer bag. Okay, so the meat is washed and it's almost ready to go into the bag, and then we shake it all about. If there's too much fat on it, just get your meat shears and cut off the fat, because you do want it lean for this. So we'll do that, throw it in there pretty much just like this, and as we go, if we find any pieces that have got too much fat on, there we go, see that one? Hopefully you can. Again, as I said, technical difficulties, as in tripod fell on the floor, the dog knocked it over, and as this one is time sensitive, I wanted to get it out anyway. So basically that's what we're doing, and there we go. We'll keep doing that until we've got it all in, and then we'll chop up the veggies. All the meat's in the freezer bag with the flour, and now we're just gonna pretty much toss it about, keep going, it'll all get coated, and then we're going to put it into the pan, or at least some of it, with the veggies. We'll start making layers. Now, traditionally, it has pearl barley in it. I'm not putting pearl barley in. It usually has white potatoes, mine are sweet potatoes, but as I say, it's a paleo compliant Irish stew, so we're doing our bit, and I have to say it really is fabulous. Now also for this gorgeous dish, I'm going to be using my giant cast iron Dutch oven, and we don't need any oil, so we're just going to start layering as soon as the vegetables are done. Okay, first slice up your onions, and just thin slices, that will do nicely. Once you've finished slicing up your onions, you're going to slice up your 8 ounces of carrots, and just, sort of, I would say about 1/8 of an inch little pieces. And then you're going to slice up your leeks, your 2 medium leeks. And finally, we're going to peel and slice the sweet potato. And then what we do is, it looks really nice when you're putting it all together, and I'll show you that. You put first a layer of half the meat, and then we're going to layer half the onion, half the carrot, half the leek, half the potato. Season, and do it all over again. Okay, now let's throw in the leeks, dot those around, and again it's half of the leeks, so it's a whole leek that's going in right now. And there we are. And next, sweet potato. So you can see I've sliced out, peeled and sliced the sweet potato, and I've sliced it pretty thinly, and now we're going to put half of that on top of everything else. So we're just going to place them around, and then we start the whole thing all over again after we've put a little salt and pepper in there. So here we go, that's one more, and now the salt and pepper. And let's, depending on how much salt you like and the fact that your meat is seasoned with salt and pepper as well, I'm going with 1/4 teaspoon on top of each layer. So 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Right, now we're going to put the rest of the meat and the veggies on top of that. And we're almost ready to get that on the stove. And here we are, the last few bits, and now more onion, carrot, and so forth till we've got rid of all the veggies in there now. Okay, it's looking really pretty and it's ready to go on the stove almost for 2 hours, but first we've got to put the liquid in. You can either use half bone broth or chicken stock and half hot water, or you can use all hot water, but it's 8 cups of liquid. So my liquid's going in now. I'm going to put the 4 cups of hot water first of all, and then I'm going to be using from frozen some of my previously made chicken feet bone broth. So that's going in now. That's going to make up 2 cups, and we'll put 2 more cups of hot water in to make up the 8. So there's my frozen bone broth on top, and that'll defrost in there obviously. We're waiting for that to come to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a nice simmer, put the lid on and leave it alone for 2 hours. Waiting for that pot to come to a boil, we're going to make our dumplings. Bowl ready for the dumplings, in keeping with my St. Patrick's Day celebrations here. I've got the green one out. And the first thing we're going to do is 1 cup of almond flour. I use so much of this stuff that I go through it like mad. If you've never used it before, you're in for a treat. So, a cup of almond flour in the bowl. I'm sorry that you can't see this properly, this bowl, while I'm actually doing it, but again, it's because of the not so much technical but difficulties. I won't say it again. The fact that the tripod broke. That's the last time, I promise. Okay, next is 1 egg is going in there. Okay. So now we need 1/4 teaspoon of most of these things, with the exception of the parsley and the almond milk at this point. So 1/4 teaspoon of pink Himalayan sea salt going in now. 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. And 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And now we need to put in the dried parsley. Now, I'd like to go with about 2 tablespoons of the dried parsley for this, the volume that we're cooking right now. So here we go. If you want to put more, you can do, but I think 2 tablespoons is about right for this. And I'll mix that, and then you can see it more close up. And then finally we're going to put in the almond milk. Teaspoon of unsweetened original almond milk, not vanilla. Make sure it's not vanilla. It will taste really, well, not so good with dumplings. Right, now we're going to mix until that is a nice dough. And then I'll give you a close-up and you'll see what we've got going on here. So there's your dumpling mix, and you can see it's nice and firm, but it's just got that little bit of moisture in it. If you want to make more of them, they're so easy and quick to make that you can just, you know, double it up if you think you want more dumplings in your stew. And that's it for now. Let's see how the pots go. Well, it's not even close. And that's, well, you can actually, I tell a lie, you can see it's starting to bubble now. That's been about 10 minutes, and so we'll give it about another, maybe another 5, and then we'll remove the scum, turn it down to simmer, and leave it with the lid on for 2 hours. So that was about right, another 5 minutes, and it's bubbling away, and now we'll just remove the scum, you see that? And then we're good to leave it alone with the lid on for, well, 2 hours total, but in an hour and a half we're going to put the dumplings in. Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left before we're putting the dumplings in for the last 30 minutes of cooking for the stew, but I just wanted to mention right now that because we're eliminating the pearl barley from this paleo version of Irish stew, we need to thicken it up some other way because the pearl barley swells and absorbs the liquid. So you can do one of two things. You can either halve the liquid and add 4 cups of liquid instead of 8, but I like to put the full amount, and I thicken it up with a mixture of arrowroot and grass-fed unflavored gelatin. I know that sounds crazy, but it works a treat, and it doesn't add anything flavor-wise because it's unflavored, but it does the trick. It thickens up your sauce. So I usually add like a tablespoon of each, and then start to add a little bit more depending on how it's looking. So just wanted to put that out there now, and you'll see what I'm doing with it very, very soon. Okay, we're an hour and a half into cooking, and it looks gorgeous, but it does need thickening up after we've cooked our dumplings. So we're going to put those in right now. Dumpling making couldn't be simpler. We're ready to put them into the pot, so all we have to do is just make them into little, I got one ready, and I'll show you, I'll give you a close-up of that very shortly, but it's about the size of a truffle. I kind of like the small ones because they're bite-size, and I'm lazy. So here we go. So here's that one that I was talking about I've already made, and just keep doing that with all of them, and then straight in to your pot. And just do that with all of them, and then we're going to cook it for another half an hour. Okay, here's your dumplings. I've made 8 truffle-sized dumplings, and they're all going to go into the pot now. And now we're going to leave that with the lid on, cook it for another half an hour, and then we'll adjust the seasoning, put in our thickening agents, and we're good to dumpling. Anyway, here we go. It's all looking fantastic, and the lamb is, oh yeah, lamb is superb. It's really tender, and nothing left to do now except to thicken it up. Okay, so what we want to start with, and I'm not going to tell you the final amounts because it's going to depend on how much liquid you use, but let's start with a tablespoon of arrowroot flour. If you can't find anything that says arrowroot flour, it's the same as arrowroot basically. So 1 tablespoon of that, and then a tablespoon of, this one is brilliant, Great Lakes. It's grass-fed, and it's a wonderful unflavored gelatin. We're going to go with a tablespoon of that as well. And you can mix in with that a tiny bit just to make like a paste, a thick paste of either chicken broth or water. I'm going to go with the chicken broth and just a little bit, and then we mix it round. Need a little bit more. Mix again. And you're going to end up with kind of a paste. I'll show you this paste, and then we're going to add that to the stew. Okay, so here's your thick paste, and that can go straight into the stew. Stir it around, and if it's not thick enough, add a little bit more arrowroot and a little bit more of the gelatin, and so forth until you get the desired level of thickness. Okay, so that's not even close to thick enough yet. So we're going to be adding quite a bit more, but 1 tablespoon of each at a time because we don't want it to get too thick. Okay, we've got some more of that paste now, and we'll stir that into the stew and see if that's thick enough. And you can see it is starting to thicken up, but it's still not there for me. This is more of a thick soup at this point. So we want to keep going. Again, another tablespoon and a tablespoon, mixed with water or bone broth. Okay, so that's perfect now. The consistency, the thickness is ideal. The meat is so tender and the dumplings are fantastic. They're not going to be the same consistency of dumplings that you're used to if you've never made non-flour ones before, or with suet or whatever, but they are really tasty, and I think they lend themselves really well to this dish. Oh, check out my bubbling cauldron there. It is absolutely superb. Well, that's it from me. I hope you enjoy making your Irish stew. I hope you enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. Have a happy and safe one, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being with me.
If you like this video, click like. If you really like it, click subscribe.